Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to the Edge magazine. My name is Jurema Silva. Today I have a wonderful, beautiful guest with a lot to talk about feminine power. And her name is Ana Paula Munoz. And she is a feminine leadership coach, and she is an intuitive mentor. And she works not just in the United States, but in a few other countries too. And Ana, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Jurema. This is really, really an honor, and I'm so excited. I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome, awesome. Ana, you are architect of mind, body, and spirit. And I love that the phrase that you describe yourself, which is part of your journey. And you used to be a very successful architect, working with famous people. Some of your designs are displayed in some museums and other art museums and etc. But today you take care of coaching, mentoring most women, is that correct? So tell us what happened. How did you change from being this creative person in the area of architect to utilize your intuition, your own power to help people? So tell us your story, your personal story.
Yes, of course. So there's actually, believe it or not, quite a bit of overlap between architecture and entrepreneurship and coaching and all of like the creative process. It is a part of me, like the architect is a part of me, and it continues to lead the way in certain ways. And yeah, the only thing that feels like it really changed is kind of my medium. So if it was an artist, there's all these different kinds of mediums. And instead of doing things on paper and creating spaces, I now support people to really look at and recreate their internal state to change their external state. So I feel like it's more about people architecting their lives versus me supporting them to architect their homes or their office building or whatever it is. So that's the tweak. And what really prompted that, which I feel is like the deeper question, is I got the dream job. I was doing work that was fulfilling and beautiful, but it just wasn't completely aligned with my heart. It wasn't that full yes, a full body yes, and following every desire. And it wasn't the way that I wanted to serve anymore. It wasn't the way that I wanted to support people anymore. And I couldn't not see that. It got to a point where I couldn't not see that, even though I'd spent like 10 years in architecture, including school and work and all the things. But it just got to that point where I chose to really follow my heart and start pursuing a different path and kind of carving my own way into that, and whatever it took, whatever that looked like, and took a lot of risks, including, talking to my my boss, who is a very famous architect, and telling him where my heart was and how, now I wanted to pursue a different kind of architecture in a way. And just really, I was terrified of his response because, he's dedicated his whole life to architecture. And he's someone that I still admire very much. It's Frank Gehry. If some of you know about architecture, you'll know him. So it was just this meeting that was pivotal for me, just really telling him, hey, my heart is somewhere else, and this is what's happening. And he was just so kind and so supportive in allowing me to, continue my work there and also move on. So that was incredible, and I'm so grateful to him for his response and for really noticing when that spark and that passion. Like, I think he recognized the passion and where my heart was and knew that that was what I had to follow. It wasn't a question anymore. So, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. It's amazing, your journey. You focus on women, is that correct?
Yes, I support mostly women.
And why? Is there a particular reason or something happened in your life or your life experience or what happened? Why that necessity of helping women?
Yeah, I love helping women because I feel like as women, we can ripple out so much of our growth into not only life, but into our families, into kids if we choose to have kids, into like it's just such an incredible ripple. And there's the fact that it feels like a fact to me, the fact that women are just creatrixes. Like we are made to create whatever that creation looks like. That is what our system and our being is made for. And there's such a big shift right now in just women's empowerment and really being able to own their desire and own what they want to create and really feel worthy of taking those steps to do the thing and create whatever it is that they're being pulled to. And then there's something also about listening to that pull and listening to, oh, this feels good, this feels like a desire that I want to explore, this feels like, you know, something that my heart just makes my heart beat faster, and I want to see what that leads me to. And allowing themselves to really feel and intuit the way that life is guiding them. And that just, there's something just so powerful there of not only the feeling, but also even just taking the stand in their power. Because we are so powerful as women. Like like if you look even just into feminine masculine polarity and dynamics, like the men hold, or, and I don't want to genderize this, so let me shift back and say we both have masculine and feminine, but and we live in a patriarchal masculine world. So like masculine energy world, when we start bringing in the feminine component into this masculine world, there's going to be so many shifts in terms of leadership, in terms of service, in terms of where we come from. Instead of competitiveness, more collaboration, instead of pushing people down, like really seeing where their gifts are and where their desires are and what feels good to each person. There's so much potential in that. And as women, we get to connect to that innate nature of our own femininity. And instead of have it be pushed down, as patriarchy has kind of like hushed us and been like, no, that's too much. No, you can't express that. No, this, no, that. It's like, no, this is my power to express, to voice, to follow this desire and this like juiciness of what it is to be woman. Is my power. And it's just like awakening that is very key in my work. And it feels like, yes, that is a big piece for the world today. Yeah.
Right. You in your blog session, in your website, you talk about this polarity, the feminine and masculine. And I want you to evolve a little bit on that conversation. But before, I would like to know what group of women you help. Is it is in a specific area that they need? Is it emotional? Is it psychologically? Is it professional area? Or is it encompass all the necessity that women face today?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, I've seen that evolve throughout my coaching practice. And when I work one-on-one with someone, it does end up being meeting any particular woman wherever they're at, whether it is in relationship, that's something that comes up frequently, like even mother-daughter relationship, or familial relationships, or partnership, like love and sensuality and sexuality relationship. So there is a range there. And what I've noticed is, like, for a while there was a lot of high performing, like peak performing women, like CEOs, entrepreneurs, kind of that side. And then now there's been more women wanting to explore more of their sensuality and their desire. So there's a range, and there's different modalities depending on where they're at. Like some calls might look like a very intuitive, supportive, like more spiritual, energetic call, and I'm really trained in that space. And then there's others that have more to do with inner child work or attachment work, things like that, which is also really important. It all weaves together. So basically, what I've seen is most of the time, you start with more of an attachment work and more like inner child healing or parts work. I like calling it parts work more. That's based in internal family systems. And that does start going more into a bit more psychological, mental. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want that to be mismatched there. But that is part of the exploration of like parts work. And then once that's cleared and there's more access to your being and your feeling, because a lot of us live in our heads. And when we're in our heads, it's really hard to access the desire and the sensational parts, like the senses. And once we get through the blocks here and the protectors, like, there's all of this conditioning. Once we get through that, then we can access the body. And working to move the emotion through the body, like somatic work, is really important to start coming into our power and really anchoring down like what it is we want to bring into the world, because we are the kind of like the beacons of what it is that we want to create. So yeah, I don't know if that was clear enough, but
Yeah, it was very good. How do you deal with when you touch the subject of sensuality, because that has everything to do also with sexuality? It said, do you face some taboos or resistance from the woman that you're treating, the people that you're treating? Is that difficult?
no, it's not, because many times, like as women, we need a safe container for all of it, for all of who and what we are. Right. So providing a safe container, whether it is one-on-one or in a group setting or in a retreat setting, which I also love to do, there's always a container of safety that we co-create with each other. So our nervous systems can be, in a calm, receptive state, and then being able to share as much as each person wants to share. So yes, there are women that have come that have had more traumatic experiences in that area. And then some that just want to explore maybe edgier things in their sexuality. So it's not taboo at all, because it's coming from a place of like, I'm not holding it as taboo. So when there is that openness and that willingness to go anywhere and everywhere, there is no more taboo, right? It's like I stand for no taboo around the topic. So if there's a question, or if there's anything that they want to bring up, a concern, a fear, it's welcome, because it's normal, and we all have these bodies, and sometimes we feel like the bodies are against us, but in reality, it's all about developing a relationship again with our whole body and our pleasure in our body. So yes, I can understand that there's been taboo, because so much of the societal conditioning has been, like really putting down a lot of our bodies and blaming our bodies for things that happen, or like there's so much twist and distortion there, that I feel like as women, it's our responsibility to start noticing when there's things that actually put our bodies down, or when we do it to ourselves, or things that say, oh, your body's dirty, or it smells weird, or it does, like, but really honoring, well, this is my body, and I have a woman's body, and it has, like, our bodies change throughout the month, right? Our bodies change throughout our different cycles. it's constantly changing, and our moods change along with that as well, because hormones impact our health and impact our moods and impact how we show up. So even just becoming so aware of, oh, I'm in this part of my cycle, so I might feel a little bit more like this or like that, and here's how I can support myself. Here's how I can create a relationship with my cycle that helps me show up in the way that I want to show up, that helps me continue creating, or helps me actually, my body is asking me to take a rest right now, and I get to do that, right? Like, that hasn't been integrated fully in society or accepted. And if we do take that rest, if we do listen, it all becomes easier, because we start coming into our flow, like the flow of life, the flow of woman.
Do you think the Me Too movement changed the perspective and how women see themselves, to give them more power, especially a power of expressing themselves, and less fear of dealing with their bodies and the emotional issues and the sexual experience? Do you think the Me Too movement helped all of us women?
I think it did. And I feel like one of the biggest things that it contributed to is just the realization that so many of us have been hurt in this way. And of course, the range varies, but it's been so normalized for us to even like, and it's been so normalized to have any like a sort of sexual harassment or some sort of and it's just been so normalized. And that was a piece where even I was just like, whoa, like, this is powerful, that we get to actually take a stand and say enough, like, that's it. I'm standing by my sisters, and we're in this together, and we're not taking this anymore. Like, drawing that line on the sand, it just, like, it's so powerful, because that's a step where we are not going back from that. And now other things that might happen, or we might see that other things happening, it's like, oh, like, I now know that I get to speak up. I get to stand by someone if they can't speak up, because that's something that happens in instances like that, where sometimes there's fight or flight, but then there's also freeze. And many, many, many times we get the freeze response versus, fleeing or fighting someone that might have hurt us. And I feel like as women, it's so normal to guilt trip ourselves and be like, I should have like slapped him, or I should have blah, blah, blah. There's all these stories. And like, just honoring, like, oh, yes, I understand that that was maybe a desire. And what happened was that I froze. And I'm just speaking here more from my experience and what I've heard from other women as well, of just like, oh, there's a freeze response, and the freeze response is just as legitimate and okay as the fight and flight, right? Like, it is actually okay. And that's a way that we were defending ourselves in that moment. And it's natural, and it's part of our body's own self-regulation, to come back into a state of well-being. And yeah, so it's just like honoring those pieces and noticing, wow, we all respond differently. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. And together we can heal this. And by sharing it, we're healing it. And by noticing that so many women have been through it, we're healing it. And by coming together and talking about it and processing it and feeling it in our bodies and raging it with other sisters, or like dancing it out, we're feeling it. So there's all these different practices that we can put into place to really move the energy that's been stored in our bodies. So that's really important as women, because we are like sensual beings.
Well,
Yeah.
very good. What do you think society in general should do to help women? Because our issues have been going on for centuries.
Yeah.
I don't even know exactly which part of history of humanity when it started. But what do you think society how society could help woman in all senses and all the emotionally, psychologically, the bodies, not viewing as an object. What do you think we all should do?
Mm. Yeah, like stopping the objectification kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Items, yeah, on a list.
yeah, and that's a great item to kind of highlight a little bit. Um, there's so many different moving parts to it, and if we just look at that one of the objectification, which unfortunately happens often, and the thing is, it's perpetuated by both men and women. It happens on both sides, and it's deep conditioning of what's valued, what's wanted, what's desired, what makes someone more or less desirable, what's like it's just really, I feel like the deeper work of just acknowledging and recognizing your own innate beauty and your own innate worth is where we would start seeing the shift, where we would stop taking the, oh, this is better than that, or, where we would stop. It's drawing the line on the sand again in all of these little things. So I actually, now that we're exploring this, like, I feel like what would make a big difference now today for all the women listening would be like if they just tuned in with themselves for a minute or an hour or whatever amount of time and just really felt in their hearts what's okay and what's not okay anymore, and getting so clear. And whenever something comes up that's not okay, cutting it short, like having a boundary. Like if someone makes fun of a woman's body, like that's not okay. So I'm not okay with that, instead of like, haha, yeah, no, it's like, that's my sister. That is like, there is this connection that we have, and there is no more, like every woman is every woman's sister. There's no more of that, like attacking others. So just even noticing that within yourself and saying, okay, where does that exist in me? Where does that comparison exist in me? Is it just me to other, or is it me to me, like self to self, right? And it's just really healing those relationships of how you relate to your own self, how you treat your body and objectify yourself, and then noticing when others do it and putting a line on it, whether it is your family, to your partner, to the world in general. And even in like bigger things like a marketing campaign that you're just like, I'm not okay with that, I'm not participating in that, I'm not giving this company my money, because I don't agree. Like I just simply don't agree with this anymore. And I hadn't noticed before, and maybe that's why I had participated in that, but I just don't agree anymore. And really starting to tune in and see, okay, this is a yes for me, and this is a no. And it comes down to even little things like who you follow. Why do you follow them? Does that actually nourish your soul? Or is it something that's creating more comparison? Like, oh, she has this and that, or they have, like, is it feeding you, or is it creating a little bit of resentment and like bringing up the monsters?
Right.
Yeah.
You traveled a little bit, different countries.
Yeah.
Is there any difference with your experience taking care of women in different parts of the world? Is there any difference, or the issues are very similar? So can you share with us an experience that you had outside the United States? Can you compare?
Mhm. Yeah. So actually in my travels, I traveled a lot in 2019. I went full nomadic mode. And I did retreats all over. And I got to experience like a diverse range of women, but I wouldn't say that they're like the issues changed a lot. It was pretty consistent in terms of their hearts, and it comes down to resensitizing our bodies and hearts to know where we're at. It's kind of a more of an intuition exercise of finding okay, like, where am I at? And what do I want? And permissioning that desire and then taking action to create it. So a lot of my retreats were focused on that, on really coming back home to self, clearing all of the cobwebs of, you know, of like past experiences that were painful and misunderstandings and family structures that were clashing and relationships that weren't working and attachment styles that, were causing one to like anxious and avoidant attachment of just which feels so uncomfortable, and really like learning that and becoming aware of it so that you can then move forward in whatever is true for you. So when you have all those other things all around you, it gets a little bit confusing and scattered of where am I and what do I stand when there's so many things all around you. So when you clear that and you're able to really see, okay, this was here, that hurt, but I can now process it and let it go. This was here, okay, this now goes over here. Like reorganizing all of the clutter that sometimes it feels like it floats around us in our auric field, I guess. And if we rearrange that and organize that and process a lot of it through our bodies, we're able to come to a place of peace where we can then start seeing, okay, this is what's actually meant to come through me and be created and be birthed and be materialized in the world. And then we start a creation process. So that's like more of a one-on-one retreat, but then in group retreats, it was, with other women supporting each other and really holding space for each other.
So you didn't have to change your approach when you worked with women in another country. It was basically the same. So what you're saying,
So
necessity, the emotional part,
mm-hmm.
The intuitive part, and etc. It's basically the same everywhere.
Well, yes, and every woman is different.
Mm-hmm.
So the general structure maybe is very similar, but the actual woman and what they're working on and what they want to create and like the outcome did look quite different. So yeah, and then in the group retreats, it's a little bit different as well because there is more of a theme. So the last group retreat we actually did right before COVID hit in February of 2020, and that was reclamation of the goddess. So that was just an all women's retreat that was really, really beautiful in Mexico, and it was these group of women reclaiming their inner goddess and really allowing her to come into the world, and what was manifested from that is just incredibly powerful and beautiful, and it was an incredible container. So there's just a lot of healing that happens in retreats, especially when it's in group and with women.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I participate in many retreats working.
Yeah.
Not for myself, which even when you work on a retreat, you're healing yourself when you're there serving most women, and it's very powerful. It is an incredible feeling anywhere, actually, in a world that you participate in a retreat is incredible. Ana Paula, you just mentioned before the pandemic. So have you noticed since 2020 any changes on your clients or what they need from you? Is there anything that you notice that is different? We're going through the second year of this pandemic. So what did you see that was different?
So there weren't huge changes, and there have been some calls where it's focused on processing what's going on in the world, like it especially for my more highly sensitive empathic clients, like there's a lot of impact that sometimes you don't really have words for, and it just feels heavier and heavier and heavier. So when they come to the call with that, we get to process that and like support that, because a lot of that isn't necessarily, it's not that one person, it's just a collective build of just intensity. So that's why it's really important to know, to be able to notice it, and then to also be able to notice, oh, is this mine? Like, is this my pain and my hurt, or is this a collective feeling? Like even right now with everything that's happening in the world with Ukraine and everything, there's a lot of like heavy build that a lot of the highly sensitive and empathics feel even more than the ones that are not so much. So not to make anyone's experience less at all, it's just empaths really feel the impact of global situations like that, and I just want to honor them for that. And it's not something that they have to do alone. So doing that in session helps because you're co-regulating your nervous system with someone else, and it's almost like you support each other to move through the heaviness together and allow there to be more spaciousness in your field again, like your energetic field again, so that you can fully be you and fully fit in your space without carrying all the extra heaviness. And that extra spaciousness just gives you more bandwidth and more availability to do things that are actually supportive to the cause. So for example, if you wanted to support Ukraine in some way, it's supportive to the cause that you have more space instead of just being like heavier and heavier and feeling it deeply in your body, because it's not for one person to feel, it's for a lot of us to process through our bodies.
You were very intuitive, and
Yeah.
you apply your intuition into your job. And how does it work? When and how do you apply your intuition into your service?
Yeah, absolutely. It's in different ways, because whenever I'm connecting to a client one-on-one or in group, there's a field, like there's a field of energy that's created between a relationship, and it's really being able to feel, like drop in together and feel what's coming up. So what happens with me, for example, one particular client that's coming up, there she's a high level CEO entrepreneur, and she has a whole team, and sometimes there's things in the dynamics of the team that come up, or things that happen with family members or things like that, right? So she can share that with me, and I can track energetically the relationship and the impact with the other person. So it really creates a space where there can be things resolved. It's difficult to explain, but there can be resolution in a problem that arises with, let's say, a family member or a team member, and by shifting her way of being based on the impact that it's causing the other person. So it's really being able to read her and then being able to read the person on the other end. So it's like a felt experience. I just feel both sides and then I can speak to it, which helps her see the different perspectives and choose how she wants to approach a situation. For example, another way that it shows up is if we're in like more of an energetic session, I'm very visual. So I see things through, like I just receive pictures. Mm. And I relay the pictures back. So it's basically sharing what's coming through, and it's just explaining or expressing the pictures and whatever content that I feel in my body about them. So it's merging different senses that are not our normal senses. So for the people in the audience that know about energy, and like, you know, I'm just very visual in that way. And also like clairsentient. So I can really feel in my body what's coming through around a vision or an idea. and also a situation, especially between relationship or what's happening inside, whether it is a relationship to yourself or a relationship to other. Yeah.
How important it is to develop our intuition. And I've noticed so many decades being a healer and a spiritual mentor that women are more sensitive. They're more in tune with their intuition than men.
Mhm.
And how important it is for your clients, for your followers, for people who you already treated, to develop their own intuition, to be in tune with what the higher self is telling them. How
Yeah.
important that is.
Super important. It's so, so, so important because it's their guiding light. It's their compass, right? So it's a big piece where, so that they don't become codependent of, hey, what do you feel about this? It's more like, no, like, let's tune into the heart. Let's tune into the body again. Because sometimes when there's been a lot of trauma, a lot of things that happen, our body kind of is frozen in certain places and we can't feel anymore. So there might be women out there that are like, yeah, that all sounds great, but I can't feel my body. Or like, I can't feel certain parts of my body. It's like, okay, like we work on that first. And then once there's a sensation and there's more of that, there's more of a connection to the body, more of the connection to the heart, so that you start learning what the pathway is to your own gateway of intuition. Some people feel in the body, some people are more outside of the body. And well, that's great for certain energetic qualities, like you can track people's energy and people's awareness and things like that. And that's an easier access to people that are more out here. And there's just a really big importance, though, that I want to just anchor in, that even though you might have that ability of being out here intuitive, coming back into the body is essential, because we've chosen to come to this world as, from wherever we came from. And so like our soul chose this life and it chose this body and it chose this everything. And sometimes there's a big impact or a big clash when we come into the world, especially if there was a traumatic birth or things like that. And sometimes the soul isn't fully able to anchor into the body. And it's and so other things happen, and it's okay. And it's actually quite normal for people to not be fully in their bodies. But as we do these spiritual practices and work on like clearing and expanding our field, we're able to bring in more of our true soul essence into the body. So more of us gets embodied, and more of that soul truth can really be, channeled into the world to create the thing, not from our own ego human mind, but from the divine manifesting into the world. So that's why it's so important because it's really channeling in more of the divine, like higher mission than a smaller one. And I don't want to make it sizes of the one thing is more important than another, because that's not what I'm saying. It's really just allowing yourself to channel through divine guidance for whatever it is in life. Yeah.
Awesome. Um, your website is very pretty.
Thank you.
And I see a lot of photos of you in nature.
Yeah.
Water, forest looks like, beautiful photos. So you do have a strong connection with nature. I would like you to explain this connection of yours with nature and how important for all of us here to to feel nature, to be around nature, because we all connected. So
Mhm.
you live around nature. It's at your best of an Apollo is being around water and forest and etc. So share that experience with us.
Yes. Thank you for noticing that. um, I I am happiest in a jungle energy. Um, like like jungly rainforesty vibe. So it's watery and green and very like wet earth.
Mhm.
And yeah, my body just craves that and wants that, and that's where I feel the most luscious and like it awakens this other side of me that feels very good. So I love living in those areas and also spending time in those areas. And um yes, and I feel like everyone might feel that sensation with different kinds of nature. Like not everyone is a jungly person. Some people, really love desert landscapes or Sedona or, things like that. And of course, like you get to really tune in and feel, well, what is calling me within nature? And nature as the topic itself is why nature? It's like, well, we are nature. So finding the beauty in nature is finding the beauty in you. And like really loving and honoring nature, you get to really love and honor you in the same way. So it's actually teaching us that. So the more that we connect to it, the more that we come back and can be mirrored by it. Like if we give ourselves that opportunity, that when we are in nature, we're in that state of awareness of, I want to see the beauty. And by seeing the beauty, I get to acknowledge the beauty in me too. And when you allow for that kind of back and forth reciprocal mirroring with nature, there's so much goodness there because nature is perfect and it's chaotic, right? Like it doesn't have an order. It doesn't have like a path that it will follow and a checklist that it'll do. It's so unbound and gorgeous. And for some reason in society, we let that be unbound and gorgeous and luscious, and that's beautiful. But when a woman is unbound, like, within her power, like that hasn't been fully accepted. So, how can we create the same flow that we see in nature and really allow ourselves, like permission ourselves to be like, oh, that's actually not considered perfect because the branches of the tree aren't exactly at this angle. Then I don't have to be exactly anything. I get to be my own expression of all of it, and that's okay. Like then you start really creating a different relationship of, oh, that might not be considered perfect to like, I don't know, a person building it, but it's considered perfect to me. So I get to really actually mirror that back and let me be perfect to me too. And it's just allowing. It's an allowing. That was a long response for a
It's
short
beautiful,
answer.
beautiful. I'm going to put you a bit under pressure now because
Okay.
um, it's under pressure. What I mean is regarding because there's not much time, but
Okay. Totally fine.
I'd love you to share your insights for especially women who are looking for healing, of the mind, body, and spirit. What we women can do, like daily simple tasks to accept ourselves and love ourselves, to pay more attention to ourselves, to spend more time with the self.
Mm. Mhm.
So what kind of routine, what do you recommend a woman to do or people in general?
Yeah. So I love this question. And, we live in a really busy world. And if I said meditate for 30 minutes, no one would do it. So I'm just like, maybe that's something you build up to, and that is awesome. And meditation is amazing. So that's not what I'm going to say. I really want to say something that is easy for all of you watching to just implement or give a try and see how that feels. So the first thing that's super easy and is when you wake up in the morning, and you go to the bathroom and maybe brush your teeth, you look in the mirror, look into your eyes, look into your beautiful eyes, and just say like, wow, you're so beautiful, or good morning, beautiful, good morning, love, good morning, like radiant queen, like whatever it is, just acknowledge yourself first in the mirror. When like, and that's a quick thing, right? Maybe it's even like, oh, I like you today, or you're looking good, or I love you. If I love you is a stretch, say I like you, no problem. And then if you have a little more time and you have a more dedicated practice, I would encourage you to do a like one song, choose a song that really feels delicious to you. So it might change. And just maybe you have a playlist, but it's a song where you could just fully express and move your body how it wants to be moved in the morning, and just feeling yourself and feeling like all like whatever emotion was stuck, maybe a bad dream, maybe a conversation that was kind of sticky, like moving that through your body and expressing it through like a short dance with a song, or maybe just feeling the song. And you just get to come into your sensuality that way, and you come into your body and you're just like, oh, I'm back to this yummy like woman vibe. and then start your day that way. If you want to add more, I can give more, but those would be like two really big and very simple things to do that can really shift your day.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very simple things to do too. Doesn't take much time, and it's not elaborated.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. Ana Paula, I'm sure people after doing this interview are probably fascinated with you. How do they find you? Do you have any events coming up? Or how do people contact you for a one-on-one session and etc.?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for asking. So I do have some retreats that are in the works right now. So there will be a women's retreat and then also a couples retreat. So I know a lot of women want to involve their partner or work on communication and things like that with their partner. So there's going to be both. And then the best way to get a hold of me is if you message me on Instagram. That's probably the best. And I am at, I don't know if there'll be show notes, but it's at I am Ana Paula Muñoz on Instagram, or I'll share a link, and I'm happy to offer your viewers a link to like a 20-minute call with me to see if they're interested in any of the things that we talked about, or they just want to know more. Whatever the case is, I'm happy to do that and open up some of my calendar for them. So if you want that.
They can contact you via email also. What's your email address?
Yes, my email is Ana Paula, ANAPAULA, at anapaulamunoz.com. So ANAPAULAMUNOZ.com. And I'm sure that'll be in the show notes as well. But if you wanted to contact me, just I think the call would be easiest, so that we can just get on the same page faster. Yeah.
Awesome. Ana Paula, you are a beautiful woman and a beautiful spirit. Thank you so much for sharing your work here with us. And I wish you the best and success. You have to continue healing more and more women. Your work is amazing. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. This was beautiful, and I feel so grateful that we got to connect and share so many, like we went so many different routes. So I hope it was really supportive and yeah, supportive for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to check us at edgemagazine.net for more interviews, more articles. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.